Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to session 2 of the Essential Skills for Navigating Difficult Times. Every time we meet, I imagine we'll still be navigating difficult times individually and collectively as we continue to be in this unprecedented time that we're navigating. So many people figuring out what we're doing in motion because we're presented with challenges and problems we haven't experienced before. So in keeping with that spirit, go ahead, Megan. Megan's going to be my clicker today. We are working hard to try to ascertain the mystery of the blue box that keeps flashing on the webinars that we're doing. And so part of the troubleshooting today, Megan's going to share the slides and not me. We don't know if that's an issue in my computer or in the webinar software. So we're going to keep doing it. So click where this is still an FFT that just stands for freaking first time. And we'll keep working on that. Thank you, everybody who gave us the responses to the survey, the participant surveys. Megan and I take that very seriously and sit with it and think about how to use what you're sharing to improve the class. We had 124 of you respond. There was about 340 people, I think, on the call. So it was a pretty good response rate. That you'll get that opportunity every week. We do know from feedback that there's a glitch happening with the Google folder, so Megan and I will try to figure that out. If you try to get in and you can't get into the Google folder, go ahead and send me an email, and I will go in and actually share it with you personally. That's worked for a couple people, but it's set so that anyone with the link should be able to get in, so we're not quite sure what's going on with that too. You'll notice that your chat function is open today, just a reminder for people who may not have been here. Only the panelists are able to talk, but you can chat with us. I will open the chat box when I ask a chat question, and then I will close it back down when we're done with that dialogue because I'm not able to process all the different information all at the same time. I've learned that about myself. So therefore, if you have a concern or a question that you want Megan to address or take care of for you, like a sound issue or a question you want her to ask me in real time, you want to use the Q&A function. Although I do want to acknowledge that Megan now has an additional job of also forwarding the slides today. So she's showing up in a variety of ways. Thank you, Megan. The slides, some people are wanting to use them. I intended to put them in the Google folder before today so that if you wanted to print them out just beforehand, I realized I didn't do that, but I will try to make sure that the PowerPoint slide gets in the Google folder, so if you want to print them out and use them, you'll be able to do that. Like I just saw a chat and then I got distracted. That's how, I can't help it. That's what happens to me. The follow-up emails will have links to the videos and links to the document. I guess I'm wondering if maybe I should just do a link to the actual Google folder and make sure maybe it's the thing about the difference between the documents or the Google folder. I will check all of that out. So thank you for that chat. That was helpful. Go ahead, Megan. The self-reflection worksheets I am creating because I know I'm giving you a lot of information. It's a lot to take in, and I want you to sit with it and process it a little bit. So whether you're watching the video again, some people are watching the recording again and kind of taking notes and slowing down. Some people are just using the self-reflection piece to sort of keep them thinking of the skills and concepts in between the classes. I just want you to know they're there. They're optional. It's not like there's like a curriculum you're going to be graded or anything like that, but those self-reflection sheets will come out every week, and they'll relate both to what we just talked about and possibly something that I want you to think about for the next week. So those should add value to your experience. So check them out. And we're working on the blue box. And I don't know, Megan, if you had that other thing you were going to say, but now we changed to a sharing. So I don't know if that's still relevant or not.
Yeah. So one thing is on your screen, one comment that has been made is that it'd be helpful if Lisa was a little bigger on my screen. I'm not able to make her bigger because I'm sharing my screen, but on your screen, there should be a little bar next to her space, and you should be able to click on that and drag it across and make that a little larger. So hopefully that will help you. So that it will work for you to make her a little larger so that you can see her better on the screen. So hopefully that helps with that piece. If I can manage, I will also try and get that PowerPoint up into the drive here shortly.
Reminds me of a very old, very sexist commercial about bringing home the bacon and frying it up in a pan. Megan doing multiple things all at the same time today. That is a terribly horrible commercial that I just referenced. I don't know why. It was in my already thought bucket, which we'll talk about today. Go ahead, Megan. So when we looked at the feedback, go ahead and bring all these up, Megan, so you don't have to work on it so hard. One of the things that we heard in the, not that far, yeah, we heard is that people were really appreciating having the opportunity to actually have this webinar and to have a time and a place to come and like step out of what's happening and do some learning about that. So that was a common theme. People felt a little bit like they were in it with other people, that they were not just out in their own little spaces, but that we have apparently given it a sense of community, and people having a sense that they're in it with others. It's at least in the learning with each other, and also the normalizing of what we're experiencing together, which is another piece that people really appreciated. The idea that it's not very many places that we get a chance to sort of take a minute and normalize and validate and just recognize the hard that we're navigating and that we're pulling through, to kind of pull back and have some perspective about the fact that this is a difficult, a challenging experience. Also, there was some themes in there about people really appreciating that we're going to make space for the emotions that we're having, instead of feeling like we had to figure out a way to not feel all the feels that we're feeling because of the wildly unknown situations that we're dealing with, or the grief and change and loss and all the challenges that we're having. There was quite a few comments related to appreciating the encouragement to practice the noticing, that noticing was kind of a new thing, and that sort of starting to develop a reflex where you're actually witnessing and noticing what you're doing and what you're creating as you go through your experience of this, just as opposed to feeling like it's just what's coming at you. We're going to focus on that a lot today. When asked what was most helpful, there was kind of equal parts mud mine. A lot of folks appreciating the idea of the mud mine jar, and the value of kind of going from maybe a more processing, computer analytical thinking that happens sometimes, and being able to notice when that's overloaded or just busy, and giving ourselves a chance to take a breath. I noticed I'm going a little too fast. Take a breath, let it settle, and move more towards receiving and reflecting, just letting something in. That's kind of how I want you to experience this next hour or so, is just to not be trying to make sense of everything, but just to kind of be letting yourself just take in and wonder. Curious, open, wondering. This is the state of mind I want you in, even as we're learning this. So people are starting to notice, and then I'm going to ask if you were able to notice when we're in mud mine and what happened, because it's the number one resilience skill. The very, very basic core is an increased ability to witness yourself in motion in your experience. So people found that helpful. Lots of you are saying that you're practicing the 3-breath reset. This is something I would like everyone to be practicing multiple times a day, just so that it starts to cue. Like, our stress responses go off really fast, and they are often trigger happy, where they go off without really necessary cause. So we're too sensitive on our stress response. So our stress response goes off, cortisol runs through our system over things that maybe we don't have to do that about. We startle ourselves into that. While our stress response is very trigger happy, our relaxation response, we haven't strengthened. And I taught a class for a while called Strengthening Your Relaxation Response. And partly how we do that is we start to notice who we are, how we stand when we're relaxed and centered and at our best. And we start helping ourselves go there more often, so that the pathway from upset to more relaxed gets, like when you wear down a path, like the sidewalks over by Beaumont Tower got put there because people use those paths a lot, and then they decided that's where the sidewalk should go. We want to use the pathway from upset back to calm so that it gets more ingrained too. So that's why I'm wanting you to practice that. People also appreciating both the 6-word framework, which we will go over and over and over, because I want you to try to get it committed into memory and into motion in the way I want you to know what those 6 words are in the order that they're in. The order does matter to me a great deal. And then also people finding that the metaphor related to operating a lot like a GPS, where you decide like the kind of emotional climate you want to have in your stay-at-home world with your people, if you have people with you. And you're noticing the energy that you're bringing, and you're noticing when you're in alignment with your intended values and maybe when you're not. I often joke that when you take an aspirin bottle, if the arrows are lined up, you could open it pretty easily. But if you're out of alignment, you could do a lot to try to get the lid off that, and it's very effortful. You can't do it. It's not until you line back up that you can make that happen, that you can access what's inside. The same is true with our values. Like we have to notice that we're out of alignment before we would be aware that maybe we should line that back up. And that impacts our integrity. And that our feeling system state can help us notice when we're out of alignment. And so some people found that helpful as well. Go ahead, Megan. I put this slide in here because I just, both from the Friday class and from even last week and some emails that I've gotten, sometimes people have a comparative experience with this class. Like people will say, I feel less anxious already, or this is so helpful, or I'm noticing this, and then I'm having these positive outcomes. And often there's a person who maybe hasn't felt a shift yet, or somebody said, you seem to be relaxed and chill, but I can't seem to relax, or I must not be getting it. And I would just say that we're just introducing some ideas that have been part of our cultural conditioning for a long time. And so for some of you, you'll have some insights right away, and you'll start just seeing things differently. That happened for me in some of the first classes that I went to. And then there were other times where I heard somebody say something quite a few times before the penny dropped. And I had an insight that, like, first it was just information. And then at some point it turned into something that occurred to me about what they were saying. I'm like, oh, now I get it. Like I remember the first time that I noticed that I was caught up in a thought story, and I was like lathering up into a hurt, wounded reaction. And I saw that happening and was able to drop out of it. And that was like a little while after I started coming to the class. So what I want to say is you're all on your own pace, and this is all going to occur to you in your own moments, which is why you want to just be listening in that open, curious mind, because what's most important isn't even what I say, but what occurs to you about what I say, because that's an aha moment where like somebody says something. My son does this all the time. My son Duncan, maybe it's something I've said a million times before, but all of a sudden he'll hear it and he'll go, wow, that changes everything. And I just love how excited he gets. I'm like, I know, right? Like that new thought changes how we see things, including like the story that we carry about ourselves. We can have a new thought that shifts that story away and allows us to live life with a little less self-loathing or angst that can happen. So right now, I just want you to consider the possibility that if you hang out with this information and you just take it in and you come every week and you participate, that you will start to have some thoughts. You'll start to notice yourself reacting differently. You might start noticing that your story about yourself or about the world is starting to shift. You might notice that you're navigating a little more effectively. So you don't have to believe me today. I often start classes by saying, don't believe a word I say, because what I've come to realize works for me, but what I've come to realize can't help you until you realize it, right? So we just want you to consider the possibility that you'll see some things. And Megan and I have a friend who I think I might have mentioned, was really convinced that they were defective and flawed as a human. And after a lot of encouragement to consider the possibility, one day this person said, I want to share that I think I might be a little bit fabulous, right? Like it's just started to crack open. So we're just trying to get you to consider the possibility. Go ahead, Megan. Here we are with the 6-word framework. This is the first time we'll talk about it today. I just had a conversation with people about the fact that I'm really glad it's not a 4-word framework, because that would be not effective. That would be more like, don't worry, be happy. And that's not what the institution needs of us. That's not what our family needs of us. That's not what our loved one needs of us right now. Because that would be acknowledging and honoring maybe, and that would be releasing and relaxing back into our health and well-being. But we wouldn't be reflecting on our values and taking value-guided action, right? This is where the rubber meets the road, like that this framework helps me show up and demonstrate my values when I need to the most. And so I kind of sometimes think of this 6-word framework as 3 sets of 2, where I want to acknowledge and honor. I want to acknowledge what's happening and honor the emotions that come with that. And then at some point I need to be willing to release that energy and relax back into my most centered and grounded self. At which point I'd like to reflect on my values about the situation in that role that I have, and then look for what action I can take that's lined up with those values. Acknowledge and honor, release and relax, reflect and resolve. The calming practices, the 3 breath practices, are really the part where we are willing to release the experience we've been creating. So if this week you notice that something happens and you don't like it, and you're resisting and resenting that you don't like it, and you've got a lot of upset and you're frustrated about it, in the moment that you see that, I want you to try to acknowledge, what is it that I'm frustrated about, and what is it I'm feeling about that? And then, do I need to honor my emotions about that in any particular way right now? Like what seems wise as a way to honor that, maybe give it voice. And then at some point you have to be willing to give yourself permission to kind of push the button that would start to let it jettison away from you. I know I said that last week. I was just trying to clarify that a little bit. For example, I acknowledged this weekend that I was feeling really saturated with a lot of grief and concern and sadness and sorrow about the loss of life. Just like a moment of just being with that. And a song came to my mind that was "Calling All Angels" by Jane Seabury, I think is her name. And that song was also played at my aunt's funeral, who was my mom's best friend. And it also brought all my grief related to my mom up kind of in that moment. So I'm standing there looking out the window at the rainy day. I listened to the song for a few minutes on repeat. It was bringing it up and out, and I was just kind of sobbing and releasing that. And then after it played a couple times, I needed to become willing to let that experience move on. It might be like the same thing, like when I decide to come in out of the rain, right? Or when I decide that the whitecaps in Lake Michigan are a little too choppy, and maybe I want to come and position myself on the beach and just look at it for a while instead of being out in it. That's kind of some of the metaphors that I have for that. So I became willing to let that experience go, did some 3 breath resets, then felt myself settle, and then asked myself, what's the most meaningful and important thing I want to do today, which was actually really connect with my wife, who I was getting to spend some high quality time with. And then we went on with the rest of our day from there. So go ahead, Megan, you're good. Go forward to the Be Here Now slide. It's harder to work the slides than you might
I
have known.
apologize. It keeps clicking when I try and answer a question over in the chat. So I apologize.
We have to decide which is worse, the blue square or
Yes.
let's figure that out. Again, wanting you just to take a quick moment to check your external situation and see if you can make yourself the most able to be in that open, quiet state of mind. And then also tend in for a minute to your internal state. As soon as I said that, I just kind of looked inside to sort of see, like, where's my breath? Down pretty low. It's not up here, it's down. Take another breath. Just tending to, like, the settling quality. Go ahead, Megan. We're going to just settle. Go ahead again. We're going to settle into a moment. This time, the reset skill that I want to offer is called What 5 Things. And so either just do some breathing and notice the candle flame and give yourself permission to settle. Close your eyes and just listen to the sound of my voice if that's something that'll help you settle. Or you could take a deep breath, just focusing first on your breath. Then on that second breath, noticing the tension in your body, and taking a more relaxed position. And then on that third breath, ask yourself, what 5 things can I notice about my physical environment right now? Like, what 5 things can I notice as I look out the back window of my house right now? What 5 things can I describe that are in the physical space? I'm mostly wanting to bring your full beaming attention to your present moment experience while letting your energy drop. This is a technique that's used in trauma-informed counseling, because when people have a memory that gets them trauma triggered and they're reimagining something that's happened, if they're aware enough to know that that's happened, they can bring the skill towards very specifically describing their current environment. So you might describe not just that there's a pillow, but that the pillow has some birds on it and some flowers, and it's orange and rust, and I'm describing a pillow that I can see while letting yourself drop. You can do that in a staff meeting if we're ever in a staff meeting together, an actual staff meeting. People say sometimes, how do I do these reset skills in front of people? Well, nobody needs to know that you're breathing and that you're noticing what's on the walls in the room, or noticing 5 colors that you can see. Often there's more color than we're aware of, so when we ask ourselves to notice color, it brings us to the present moment. So that's what 5 things are. So go ahead, Megan. The chat question is that I would like to open chat and have a conversation with you, that based on your feedback, in terms of what you've been able to use, have you been able to use what you've been learning since the last webinar? The vast majority of you said somewhat. This class, nobody said not at all. Nobody that answered the survey. So if you didn't answer the survey and you would have answered that not at all, or somewhat, I'm curious, for those of you that said somewhat or experienced not at all, what got in your way? I'm just going to open up my chat box. What got in your way? Don't tell me like somewhat or significantly. It's like if you weren't able to practice some of what we talked about, what was the reason for that? Is kind of what I'm wondering. Old habits, remembering, taking a moment, pausing to do it. You got in your own way. I'm curious about what that meant. Needs more practice. Got better at the end of the week, so the practicing helped. Your inner thoughts took over. Not taking the time, not making yourself the priority. A 2-year-old can be interruptive to that, but you can even notice that you're frustrated by the interruption. So that noticing can happen whether that 2-year-old's in the room or not. In the moment, stress made the breathing harder to slow down for. So you noticed that you were hijacked, and when you started, like, if the physiological energy of being hijacked felt like it made it harder, I would say it even makes that even more important to be doing that. I did use the strategy. I had to be very conscious about taking the time to do it. Yeah, so we both want you to be practicing it, some of these reset skills, practicing them just to practice them, and then also looking to them when you're having a hard time. Not being used, how I can use these techniques, remembering exactly what they are. So we're really want to be a little redundant about the 6 word. We want it to be in your memory. We want it to start to be part of your scaffolding. We're trying to get it to develop it into like a reflex that when something happens, this is the stance that I'm going to go in and how to do. Sometimes just moving on. If you're just moving on, Rebecca, if you're just moving on and not tending to the emotions of that, if you're stockpiling stuff and just moving on, that's more problematic than if it's actually like taken care of and moving on. If you've metabolized it and moved on, that's an okay thing. If you're stockpiling it, it can be that I see frustration took over. Yeah, when we get actively frustrated or stressed, it does take our prefrontal cortex offline. That's why that happens. Our logic center goes offline when we're stress activated, which is why just a friend of mine just does this. This is your brain. This is your prefrontal cortex. And when it goes offline, you don't have your logic. And if you're doing that and you're still parenting and you haven't noticed, that's scary for the people around you. It's like that for leadership too, by the way. It's scary for the people around you. My friend can just go like this now. She's like, she just kind of knows that she does it to herself even. Like she just knows that she's flipped. And so when she does this in her mind, it's kind of the equivalent of her going like that. Like she just wants to stop the sharing of what's going on because it's probably not going to be very lined up. A lot of times people do want to keep a mud mind jar around some visual as we're starting to get, hey Audrey, starting to get this into our daily practice. Yeah, we'll talk more about the stockpiling and the metabolizing because the short version of that is just because you're suppressing an emotion doesn't mean it goes away. It leaves your field of awareness, but it's almost like you're putting it in an account that's increasing your debt load, your emotional debt load. That's one metaphor that people have, that you have to pay the cost of that at some point because emotions need to be metabolized and released. And when we take them and we stockpile them, one metaphor is that they metastasize and they come out sideways and they complicate all different kinds of things, projection, deflecting. This is like when somebody has a rough time at work, but they come home and yell at a pet or a neighbor. It didn't get actually processed. And we'll talk about that more, I think, probably in like session 4. So we're going to get to that. And a really bad stressful situation took me back to my imposter place. Okay, so that is a shame flash. Right? That is a moment when something happens and you get that warm wash of yuck, I call it, where like a mushroom cloud of yuck. And in that moment, in that moment, your ears are probably ringing. You don't have your prefrontal cortex. Your breathing comes up. You get tunnel vision. Physiologically, the research says that when we're shame triggered, we have the same physiological experience of being trauma triggered in the moment. Our bodies just go into high alert, which means we have cortisol running through our system again. Right, stockpiling therefore does have an effect on other people because if you stockpile long enough, you become a hurting person that's hurting people, yourself and other people. So, okay, the fight, flight, freeze response, right? Most people know what I mean. That's be a good poll question later, Megan. Most people know what I mean when I say fight, flight, freeze. What we're not very good at, that's a response. What we're not very good at is what's called the tend and befriend response. which is the response that we can take that calms down the fight, flight, freeze, that we tend to and befriend someone or something or ourselves in the caregiving. It's the mammalian caregiving response. It actually starts to bring our system back online. So we have to get better at providing that to ourselves and to other people if we want to kind of reduce the amount of time that we're in fight, flight, freeze. And when we're in fight, flight, freeze, we often act out of alignment with who we really want to be in any role that we're. It's not like that happens at home but doesn't happen at work. It happens across the board. Okay. When you say, can we add that to the vocab list, you mean the fight, flight, freeze, and the tend and befriend? Yes. Megan, will you make a note of that? Okay, I'm going to close down chat for now. And I will read that chat later too, so I'll get it to Megan. You don't actually really have to do that. And then take us to the next slide, if you will. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about this last week. I did a little bit already today, but it is like the center point of being able to grow and change, is going from most people don't even know they have a thought world and that they're living at the mercy of it. If I could find 10 people on the street, which used to be so easy and now not so much, and I ask these upset people, what's making you upset? They often say something outside of them. It's my professor, it's this person driving in front of me, it's the weather, it's, you know, when I say what causes you stress, people almost always say things that are external to them. And most of us don't know that we're having our own personal experience of reality right now. 24/7, 365, whether we're awake or we're sleeping, we are creating our own personal experience. When you don't have a strong witness ability, you are making stuff up and acting out of it without your own knowledge. This happens to me sometimes when I'm sped up in my mind and I feel rushed and I'm driving my car and I'm speeding and I don't even know I'm speeding. Like I'm not witnessing that I'm speeding. Sometimes the first indication to me that I'm speeding is somebody else gestures or there's lights behind me and I was not a very good witness in that moment, perhaps. I want to be a person that is, as I walk through my day, I want to be witnessing myself move through my day. And that doesn't have to feel like a whole nother job. It's more of a perspective. It's a vantage point. So as I'm walking into a staff meeting, earlier today, I got on a call with my team peer group, and just noticing as I got on that call that my energy was really low. I was really tired. Like I could have just taken a nap. And you know, being with folks and then being not on like I might be on now, that wave of fatigue kind of hit me. And so it was just helpful to notice that that's where I was starting. Because sometimes when I'm that kind of tired, my mood kind of drops and my perspective gets kind of narrow. And then I'm maybe not a helpful contributor. And so witnessing it just helped me take care of me in that meeting. And I was able to adjust to that. So the ability to notice what's going on with you will be a theme through the whole class. We want you to be noticing many, many things. And so while I'm going to ask you to notice many other things, it's all kind of one skill where I'm wanting you to turn on the witness, and then I'm going to ask your witness to be tuned towards noticing things like these 4 things that we'll see. I can notice, like I'm going to ask you right now while we're doing this, ask your noticer, the part of you that can notice, right? Your observing self is what it's called in acceptance commitment theory. Some folks call it your essence or your being, your witness self, but that part of you that can notice what's going on with you. Like, can you notice if you're hot or cold right now? Can you notice if you're hungry? Can you notice if you have a headache? Can you notice where in your body you're feeling tension right now? I just noticed that I'm going to stretch because I noticed I could stretch, right? Can you notice, sometimes it's helpful to notice that you need to go to the bathroom because you've been working for 4 hours or tending to a bunch of other people and you haven't even taken care of that basic function. Can you notice that you're so tired that you're not thinking clearly, yet you're still trying to work? What part of you tells you when it's time to give it up? Sometimes, if we don't have a good noticer, we end up wasting a ton of time. Mood is being able to notice your overall emotional presentation. Am I in a calm mood? Am I in a sorrowful mood? I like to just think of it like a mood elevator. Is my mood steady and kind of neutral, or am I in a high, very pleasant mood, or am I in a low, more challenged kind of mood? Again, I don't think of them as good or bad. They're just variations. And why that's important is that if I notice that I'm in a low mood, because I've learned what low mood can do to my thinking and behavior, I'm able to see I'm in a low mood, so maybe I want to be cautious about what I make up of this story. If I already know I'm in a low mood and a kid brings me a problem, I'm likely to have a bigger experience of that. It's going to be a bigger deal to me than it might be if they brought me that very same thing when I'm in a steady or high mood. It might not be a challenge at all, but in a low mood, it's like it's one more thing. These would be like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's not actually the straw. It's that I'm trying to navigate that in a mood. So I want your witnesser to notice what's going on with your mood. I want you to notice what's going on with your state of mind. Can you notice if the quality of your thought world right now is more open and quiet and clear? Is it busy or churned up? Is it like popcorn brain or blender brain spinning around? Sometimes when I notice my state of mind, it feels like the buffering, loading, like no, or the thing that comes up on a dish TV that says information has not yet downloaded from the satellite. I just can't, get it to function right now. It's helpful to notice that because that gives me data. All of this is like really cool data that I can check in and get a quick assessment about what my current operating status is and whether or not something's a good idea based on that. So many people get in trouble at work and in the world because they're in a low mood and something looks like a good idea and they do it without recognizing that A, they're in a low mood, and B, they probably wouldn't think they should do it if they weren't in that mood. So increasing the witness is such a protective factor for you. And this last one, I'm just going to be asking you to start to notice, right? These are, and it's like, are you having a strong reaction to something right now? And if the answer to that is yes, is there some rule or belief that you are attached to as like truth? Like I shouldn't be crying. A lot of people have a rule about crying. And so when they're emotional, if they're emotional and then they're having that rule, that's going to be a different barrier. I might have a rule, usually I can have rules pop into my head really quickly. I might have a rule that my kids should tell me if they're not going to do what they say. Like I was supposed to go for a walk with my son the other day, and I asked him if he was still coming. He said no. I'm like, you could have told me that earlier. So it's a general guideline that he should tell me that. But if that same thing happened and I was super tired and in a low mood with a busy mind, I might have gone off on him as opposed to saying what I did say because my physical state was pretty steady, my mood was pretty steady, and my mind pretty clear. I was like, dude, might be helpful for you to let a mom know that so that she can make some different plans. Could you note that for me, right? And so I still addressed it, but not at all with the, I don't know about you, but the lock and load, right? When my physical state is low and my mood is low and my state of mind is busy, I might do the equivalent of like swatting a fly with a bazooka, right? Like the fly's dead, but the wall's gone. And that's my relationship with my partner. Or that's what I was going to suggest about a work project. It's like too much, too intense because I didn't witness that I was at risk for an overreaction. So all of that's happening without, without judging whether the circumstance is right or wrong or good or bad. It's what I'm creating, what I'm bringing is very impacted. by these factors. So if you've heard me talk before, you know, I sometimes refer to this as the emotional wellness check-in. Because if you come and ask me how you're doing, that's coming for a check-up. I would like you to be able to check in periodically as you go through every day. You're about to make that call to that donor. And this is a donor that's maybe been a little bit challenging. I know no donors are really challenging, but maybe it's a donor that's been a little bit challenging before. And it's really important for you to be really steady and grounded as you make that call, checking in right before you make that call. If you see one of these things is way off, I would rather you wait than to make the call without recognizing that you're not, that currently this data would tell you that maybe it's not. Ice Cube, rap song, Ice Cube says you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. This is a friend of my son said that. He goes, oh, you're talking about you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Yes. I was like, yes, whatever language, whatever musical genre you want to like connect that to. We need to witness and use the data about us. See, what we're taught to witness is the fool behavior of everybody else and what they're doing to cause me stress. We aren't taught early on and throughout our life to witness what's happening for you. That you are having a reaction and your breathing is up in your throat and your shoulders, you're wearing your shoulders like earrings and you've got TMJ and you're about to lose your ever-loving mind. If I can witness that, I can adjust so that I can bring my value-guided self more. I want to be more able, more often, to bring my best stuff. There are times when I don't witness this, I don't catch on quick enough, and I do something that isn't helpful. When that happens, I embrace my humanity. I try not to judge myself because it can be really tricky for some of the very reasons you all said, like the frustration just hijacked me. There are times when it kind of dawns on me that I'm in a low mood, like because as I look out at every area of my life, it just kind of looks like crap. Like there's just nothing good in any of it, and why am I even bothering? I start to notice that I sound a little bit like Eeyore. Like, doesn't matter what I do, nobody really gives a crap anyway. It's not going to get recognized or noticed, or right. And then I just like blah blah blah. Then I go, oh wow, okay, I'm kind of in a low mood right now. I remember one day I was going up to do a training in Brody, and I was walking up the stairs in the Brody, isn't it Miss Brody? In the Brody cafeteria, I'm walking up the stairs. I'm headed to this training. It was a Friday morning. And I was like, who made these stairs? These stairs are so tall and they're hard to walk. And I get out of breath when I walk up these stairs. And it's like, they should have just made more landings. Or I just really hate the way this design. And why am I even going up here anyway? Nobody really cares about this training. They all have to be there. I'm not sure they even want to be there. Am I even making any sense? And why do I even do this work? And all of a sudden, I noticed all of it. Physical state, tired, low mood, state of mind, busy and negative, not hopeful, which happens in a low mood. And my rule book that I should be in a better mood, I should have better energy about a training, was also activated. When I noticed it, I could walk in and say to the person, her name's Jeannie, she was there to she's doing the training with me, she's welcoming me. And I said, Jeannie, I just want you to know, I just realized on the stairs that I'm starting today in pretty low energy and in kind of a crappy mood. And she said, oh, tell me about it. I'm like, no, I don't think you want any of the content. I don't want any of the content contaminated. I just want you to know, because I just want you to know that that's where I'm starting. I'm sure it'll bounce. It doesn't matter how low I go, because I trust that the bounce will happen, and that pretty quickly, I mean, I didn't say all this during that moment, I was too low of a mood, but pretty quickly, and what happened that day is as soon as I engaged with people, and soon as people started to share what they had learned the day before, my energy shifted and the variables changed. And by the way, I had some Diet Pepsi and something to eat while I was waiting, and it just balanced it back out. So it's really helpful if you're witnessing that you know that you can use that data immediately. Instead of hearing it from a kid or a spouse or a neighbor or whoever that you were off, you start to be able to see yourself in motion and use that data more regularly. Go ahead, Megan. There's participants raising hands. I'm assuming you're checking in with them about what that is. Here's a poll question for you. Megan's going to pull up the poll question right after she reminds me what the poll question is. Oh, I think the question is, do you feel like you have a sense of what I mean when I say wake up the witness? Some of you had more witnessing last week. We could tell from the surveys that there was some sharing of what you noticed when you noticed. And so answer the poll. I'm looking for statistics here, a little bit of data from you all. Is it yes or somewhat? Say more about it. I need to know a little more. I want to know how many of you might be in that category. Or I'm not at all clear. Slow down, or you're going to leave me behind.
I'm just going to give it a couple more seconds here.
We'll
Almost to 80%.
If you are done with your poll, feel free to practice a 3-breath reset. Try not to inhale a breath and drink something at the same time. But even when you're drinking, you can still take a drink. You're putting your attention on drinking and allowing your energy to drop.
So we have 74% of yes, 23% somewhat say more, and a 3% not at all.
Okay, if you were a somewhat say more, can you, is there a question that you have? Can you chat the question you might be having about it? While I'm waiting to see if that happens, I would say there's just this part of me that can notice. I think of it as the noticer. Melissa Etheridge, there's a lyric from a Melissa Etheridge song that says, "The window through which nothing hides and everything sees." That's kind of like how I think about it, is that there's a part of me that can tell me what I'm up to. It's that having a noticer is the difference between being a character in a play with a script or without a script, bumping into other characters with no ability to direct your character on the stage. You don't know the plot. You don't know what's happening. You're just reacting. Being a noticer is like when I'm in the audience with a headset communicating to my character who's at the staff meeting or on the soccer field or parenting or whatever. And I can say, "Oh, Lisa, you're about to lose your ever-loving mind. You might want to take a breath," right? I feel like it's me communicating with me. It's that part of me that knows me pretty well and can give me data.
So does it mean that you're just noticing how you're feeling?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, I want to make sure. I wasn't sure if you could see.
No, I did. I was just up here pontificating with myself. I forgot to look at it. Is that the witness, the experience is a dream when we sleep? Yes. What's interesting about dreaming is we witness it and we remember when we wake up. But sometimes in the daytime, there's a part of our consciousness that might interrupt us starting to have a daymare, if you will. Like it sort of deflects us. Sometimes when we're sleeping, the witnesser can still notice those dreams and record it, but sometimes can't play quite the active role because we're sleeping. But it is the same function. You know, the thoughts we have while we're awake create what I would call our daydream, and when we're sleeping, that same process is happening. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. That same process is happening. It's just happening while we sleep. Okay, that makes it clear. Okay, the other question that is go ahead to the next screen. Is this also a poll question? Yeah. So in the past week, as you were thinking about this, how would you answer the question? I was able to witness myself in Mud Mine sometime within the past week. Were you able to do that, daily or more than daily, 3 to 5 times. I'm just trying to get a sense of like how much witnessing is happening. During that time, I noticed that I had not pulled out my handy dandy timer to help me keep track of time. So that was really useful data that I noticed. And then I could very gently correct that. Noticing and gently self-correcting. Sometimes we don't notice when we're veering out of our lane when we're driving. And those rumble strips, they help us. Like they go, whoa, they wake us up and they help us notice. So it's still the witness part that notices the noise, right? And so if we didn't, the noise wouldn't really help. We would just still drive off the road. But we witness and then we decide to self-correct. So that's the other part. We want to notice and gently self-correct. I noticed I didn't do that, which is really helpful to me. And I didn't criticize myself about it. I just noticed and gently self-corrected.
So I'm going to go ahead and share the results. And we have 8% at more than daily, 21% at daily, around 50% at 3 to 5 times a week. Excuse me. And then 15% at once and 6% at not at all. So we're in that 3 to 5 times a week with about 50%.
And you can see the bell curve there, right? Like smaller on the end with more in the middle. Over the course of time, we're going to be hoping for people to have this be a practice where towards the end, you're all doing it more than daily. Like, because it doesn't seem at that point like something you have to do to your job. I want it to feel like it's something that you're doing as you move through your job. So the way a woman from that was involved in a leadership academy that I was in, the way that she described this to her husband, which I think is great, like we use the metaphors that we think will get into the heads of the people around us. She said, yeah, honey, it's just like when you push the systems check on your car and it says tires, 32, oil life, 69%, it kind of just goes through and and then you have data and whether you should stop and get an oil change or whether you need to put air in your tire. It's kind of like that. It doesn't have to be a big, laborsome journaling project that's complicated. You just, and so at the beginning, if you can think of like this is a good time to do it. When you're about to put your key in your car to start your engine, do an emotional wellness check-in. Like, am I rushing? Do I have a rule about I'm going to be late for something? It's like, maybe we want to drive safely. And so maybe it's like, I'm not late yet. I'm just scaring myself with a big scary rule. And I used to tell myself, I got to a point where I'd be like, well, I'm not late yet. So why don't I calmly drive, right, to be there? So we're wanting you to be able to be doing it really regularly. And so at first I want you to do it like, I would encourage you, like if you're entering your home and you're about to go into an environment where your people are there, your precious people are there. In this case, you might want to be leaving your home to get away from your precious people. But, in either case, when you're about to engage, like when I come into my home at the end of the day, I do a check-in with myself about where I'm at and what I'm bringing and what do I intend to bring when I come in. I do that same thing on the way to work every day. If you don't believe me, ask Dean Long from the College of Arts and Letters, because he keeps catching me doing this. So I was embarrassed at first because it's like funny. That I stop, I look at Beaumont Tower, I do a 3-breath reset. On that 3rd breath, I send energy out to all of you, and I think about my values as I go into the building. I'm checking myself in alignment with my values, and then I'm taking my value-guided self in, which serves everybody better than if I'm rushing in and I'm late and I'm caught up about something over here and I'm this and I'm that and I'm thinking about yesterday and I'm not even in the present moment. So you want to think of some times where you can put the check-in that makes sense because you really want to have your best self navigating. And then that will start to help you get so that it's just something that you do, that is more of a reflex. Okay, here's another chat question I have for you. for those of you that have been witnessing a lot, because for some folks that either haven't yet or aren't seeing the value of it yet, I would like you to try to articulate why it's helpful to be noticing. So how did waking up and the witness, how did your noticing when you woke up and witnessed something, how did that impact you positively? Like, what was the benefit of that? I'm going to open my chat back up so I can see what you're having to say. Like, what's the benefit? Like, why would we want to do this? Like, what's the value of it? You responded better to your kids? And like all the things you didn't say, when you do that adjustment, it's the things you didn't say that you don't have to fix and clean up. Shorten the amount of time that I spent in mud mind. Able to question if you were really angry. Yeah, a lot of times people pull back. Instead of being in it, they're like, you know what, there's not really a reason for me to have this. Allowed me to calmly handle a tech problem as opposed to trying to break your computer. More aware why I feel drained, more oxygen in your brain. Yeah, those deep breaths are physiologically helpful for your blood flow. More organized, stop thinking negatively. So that the reset, the reset skills are useful, but if you don't witness that you're out of alignment, you don't know to employ a reset skill. So one of them is, what are your reset skills? And the other is, how do you know you need to use them? I live alone, so I don't have anyone that is affected. Oh, I want to see that. Can I scroll back? It was a living alone. I live alone, so I don't have anyone that is affected more than it is affecting me. Okay, so we want that to get better. I want you to care about the quality of your evening. This is very true for folks that end up with some clinical depression, is we're not witnessing, like when kids will tell me this, when they're at school and they're engaged with people, they don't feel a lot of depressed feelings. They'll come home, they'll go in their basement, they'll listen to some music, they'll get involved in some thinking, they'll start shopping in a thought store that lowers their mood. They don't witness it and they spend all night there. And the longer they're in there, the more they start to have self-harm ideas and things like that. It's super important for us to witness and try to help ourselves because we do matter, and it is important to navigate. Somebody is impacted, and then all the other people are impacted when you're not doing okay. Didn't carry around. Hey, Lori, didn't carry around that stress or upset into the rest of your life. Help me recognize and redirect. Resetting several times a day now. That's excellent. I can help my coworkers better. Yeah, and sometimes it's like I witness at one point and I can see I'm not helpful. But then I also, like, maybe I'll go to the bathroom or I'll do something or I'll get something to eat, and then my mind clears when I do that for some reason, like naturally. And then when I walk back in the room, I'm like, I actually can be helpful. So I get to be more helpful when I can be helpful, and less helpful, less unhelpful, because I'm seeing that. Stopping judging yourself. We're going to really talk about self-compassion and stop and becoming a better helper to yourself in this process. That's like week 5. You didn't go off on a person. Hey, Trudy, good to see you. Valuable because I didn't want to be that kind of person. Yes, right. Because these are the people that we married, or these are the people we created, or these are the people that we like working with. So I love that. Just and everybody's going to do that. Like, everybody's going to have moments of being out of alignment. If you are, I am not going to give you points for noticing how calm and perfect you are all week. I will give you notice and lots of noticing points. If you notice yourself having just lost your shit, I said it, it was recorded, I did it. Okay, I would like for you to notice before you go off, but particularly right now and early on, I also value after the fact noticing, because then you can start to put, like, well, when I started using the word really, like, really, like, maybe that's an indicator for me that I'm starting to get off center, right? And we're going to do some homework, probably week 3, if you follow the other course, where I'm going to ask you to really start to investigate, who are you? What do you sound like when you're centered? Who are you? What do you sound like when you're not centered? We have to start being the one to see us go from centered to not centered, so we can help ourselves not be that to ourselves or to other people. This is great.
So as associated with this, we have two questions that have come in through the Q&A that I think are related to this a little bit. And it's around the values. So part of it was when you were talking about reflect and resolve. How do they know? You've talked about centered, you've talked about your wise self versus your emotional self. Can you help give them a little more clarity around when you talk about values? What does it mean? What does that element mean? I know you're going to address it more later, but just to give them a couple more little examples to help them.
Yeah. When I'm having a little bit of a moment, Megan, where the webinars are hard to keep clear in my own head. I think last week when I was talking about emotional resilience in general with this group, I talked about when you're connected to your innate health and well-being, you enter a feeling state, and in that feeling state, you have access to healthy energy. You have access to wisdom and common sense and creativity and grace, new ideas. So I'll just, because I have a PowerPoint, but I also have a powerful point, and I always choose this organic one versus one I made up yesterday or the day before or last week. So I will ask you for a moment to just take a couple minutes and take a really deep breath and try to bring to your mind a time in your life, maybe today, last week, years ago, where you really feel like you were centered and at your best. An example that I shared with the other class was a moment when we were that family at the Ball Diamond where we were the family that broke up that summer, and there was just tension around all of that. And I wanted to connect with my son, Duncan, and I brought my mitt. It was his brother's game. We were over here playing catch, and I wanted to communicate to him that everything was going to be okay. We were going to be okay. And when I was playing catch, something told me to do this. I kissed the ball, and I threw the ball back to him, and he caught the ball, and he touched himself with it, and then he kissed it and threw it back to me. Didn't say a word. Our eyes were locked. I felt myself drop into this very grounded, centered place, and it was just him and I connecting. So in that moment, I was in a feeling state that was very grounded and connected to my health and well-being. And I was very quiet and calm and clear. And what I would say, I'm going to ask you, like, what was your feeling state? And then what did you fill up with? And I would say in that moment, I filled up with love and preciousness and joy. That's a situation where the situation was kind of conflicted, and I was still able to be centered and at my best in that moment. So just for a minute, we'll do it now, and then maybe we'll fix it later. If you can think of a moment when you were, regardless of what the situation was, lighthearted or not, it can be as simple as waking up in the morning before my alarm and hearing songbirds and having a moment where I'm just resting in my health and well-being and hearing the birds, and I'm resting would be the feeling state, and what I'm filling up with is serenity and sweetness, simplicity. So if you can right now, chat for me some words about who you are in that moment. What was the feeling state, and what did you fill up with? Did that translate, Megan? I don't know if people are reflecting. Oh, here we go. Creative and energized, filled with confidence, connected, loving, calm, focused, serenity, calm, joy, gratitude, belonging, joy, filled with compassion. Like part of it, the centering quality is me opening up to that energy flow. And so there are just times when I'm connected to that and bringing that creative energy, new energy. And then there's times where I'm just caught up in a reaction and not grounded, and it's like capped, and I can't bring my good energy. My health and well-being can't get out. So I think of emotional resilience as knowing that I have healthy energy to draw from, and knowing how to connect with it and bring it when I want and need it. And so calm, creative, caring, these are some of what I fill up with. I'm going to take all the words that you're sharing and make make a slide for you for next week, because I think of this as our default setting, and when I'm connected with that, like when I'm resting, when I don't have a thought in my mind, when I'm not having some reactive thought or some rule, when the snow globe is open, I'm just kind of resting in that. I didn't know that that was actually my default. I spent so much time with anxious thinking that I thought my default was anxious. In fact, I would have described myself as an anxious person, that I was anxious all the time. But I just had thinking all the time. I had a lot of thought habits that was pulling me up out of this sort of wiser, clearer place. And so the more we understand that we have that, and that I didn't even know when I first started learning, I couldn't even think of a time. So if you're out there thinking, I don't know a time when I was centered and at my best, that's okay too. Consider the possibility that we're going to discover that, because that's what happened to me. And so, you know, the ability to get better at noticing that that's our default, that helped me start to notice when I was pulled up out of it with a thought. And then if I notice that, I don't have to do anything with the thought except loosen my grip on it so that I can come back to who I was before. I startle myself. It's not that I don't have anxious, fear-based, worst-case scenario thinking. If you could see some of the things that my amazing creative brain makes up, you give me a situation and I'm going to make up the most startling thing. I still do that. I'm not going to be able to, people with anxiety and panic are highly creative people. I just don't hang out with it because I notice it, and I'm able to release that creative process and fall back into the well. I actually think of it sometimes like a floating, like letting go and dropping back in the water and floating, and then bringing something else out. I'm going to show you some pictures of that in just a minute. So the value guided piece is a little different. That's like when I'm resting in that energy. I want to think about value guided question we're going to talk about last session, but we can talk about it here too, is asking yourself the question, in my relationship with my isolation partner, this case happens to be my 24-year-old daughter, Aiden, how do I want to show up and be in connection with this person as we're sharing space in the next few weeks? What are the values that I want to guide that relationship? As I think about my work, as I think about being an emotional resilience educator at Michigan State University, how do I want to use this time, this pandemic moment, to further the health and well-being of the campus community? My values related to my work are curiosity, creativity, and courage. And because of those values, and because of keep coming back and touching those and coming forward, I have got myself in a scenario where I'm going to be on Spartan Fireside tomorrow talking about stuff and putting my ideas out there in a very public way. Following my values isn't always easier. I would imagine my day might be easier tomorrow if I just slept in late and had some sessions and went on about my weekend. But my value-guided self wanted to show up so that possibly we could get a situation where all Spartans, regardless of their role, whether they're a student or whatever, they all get access to these skills. Because I think our community will be healthier and more diverse and more inclusive and safer and a nicer place to work. And we would be less likely to be harmed by unhelpful leadership if we all had these. So I will get up and do that tomorrow. So I don't know if that answers the question, like Megan, that's what's occurring to me right now to say. What
I believe that helps. I think that I'd love some reassurance from the two that asked the question, if they can provide that. But for me, that helped give a little clarity. I know you'll cover it more in detail, but I think that gives a sense.
Okay, all right.
We'll watch for some responses. Thank you.
Yeah,
I just
for
felt
sure.
it was an important spot because it related to what was happening here, and those kind of popped up, and you didn't see them because they weren't in the other chat. So
yeah, no, that's really cool. And it is important because that's what you're setting your compass for. That's like, so the emotional guidance system, you know, that's who I want to be. That's, I love that, you know, your GPS doesn't shame you, right? If you get off course, the first thing it says is you might want to make a U-turn, right? Make your next available U-turn. And then if you keep ignoring it, it gets a little louder and it says, you know, finally it just says recalculating. What I love about a GPS is no matter what you've done, it knows where you want to go and it tries to get you there. Your emotional guidance system does that too. But if you aren't clear about who you want to be in your marriage, if you're not clear about the kind of, if I'm not clear about the kind of white woman I want to be working at MSU post the 2016 election, then I'm not going to show up in ways that might change the system to improve the lives of faculty and staff of color on our campus, right? If I'm not clear about how I want to use my energy, I'm not going to show up that way because I'm not going to be called to do that. And so A, we don't set the compass, and B, we don't witness when, I mean, it's okay. So my kids would know, and could tell you, I'm hearing one off in the kitchen. She might be listening even, I don't know. She could probably pop in here and offer this, but they know that I left a situation so that I could create a space where it was an emotionally safe place for them to be. And I know at times when I'm caught up and reactive and I don't see it, I'm at risk of being the unsafe parent. Because it's my clarity, I'm clear about it. It's like my highest value. They would say, she is right here listening, they would say, I don't think they would say that I'm 100% on, that I'm emotionally steady all the time. I do think that she would probably say that I'm likely to notice it, and I'm likely to take accountability, and I'm likely to come back and try to make an amends, circle back around and own it, right? So let's say in my values related to the kind of leader I want to be, I just get caught up and reactive, or I'm not feeling well and I'm in a low mood and my mind is busy because of a deadline, and I snap at somebody. I've just now acted out of alignment. But if we don't have any internal reference point, if we're not witnessing, it's going to look like the problem was the administrative assistant working with me. It's going to look like it's Megan. It's going to look like it's that I agreed to do it in the first place, and so I should just not do that. It doesn't let you line back up and move forward if you aren't clear about your values. So my values told us we should stop and do that again. And I do know now we have 12 minutes left. So I'm just checking in with myself. Go ahead and skip to the next question. I think maybe I have to do this, Megan, where I'm going to just not get as far as I meant to get and just kind of accept that. So here are some things I would like you to set your noticer on this week. I would like you to capture yourself. Again, there's no points for having super shiny outcomes. It's the noticing. So I want you to notice what's up with you right now. So I want you to do these emotional wellness check-ins. I would like, go ahead and you can just make them all show up. I would like you to continue noticing your mud mind. I would like you to start to notice when you're resisting or resenting something. So we get so psychologically tight and caught up when we don't like something. And sometimes I don't like something and I could do something and it could change the situations. But often I'm resisting and resenting something that's already decided or that is outside of my control. Like if Governor Whitmer extends the stay-at-home order, there will be some pieces of that I will probably resist and resent in my mind. Also, if she doesn't extend the stay order, there's going to be some pieces of that I'm going to resist and resent in my mind. If I can't control the situation, the choice I have is whether I'm resisting or resenting it. And so I just want you to start to notice yourself, because you probably have a habit, unless you're all super psychologically flexible people, at which point you should do the class and I should watch, because that's cool. You probably have a habit of resisting or resenting stuff that it's not helpful to resist or resent. When we start talking about psychological flexibility and that skill set, moving from resisting and resenting to a place of accepting. Okay, psychological flexibility is also called acceptance and commitment therapy or theory. And so the word ACT, acceptance, commitment, therapy, ACT, the word ACT, it can be a mantra of accept what is, commit to your values, take effective action. It's just a different version of the six word framework, really. Resisting and resenting is until we drop the resistance and resentment, we can't get. It's amazing when we do notice that we're resisting and resenting, how quick that is. A brief example of that to try to make that come home. My son, a couple years ago, he was working at the Kellogg Center as a student. I had a 7 o'clock appointment the next morning. The night before, he hurt himself playing basketball. He just came home. He was in a really low mood. He just went to bed. So I woke up in the morning with his alarm going off and him getting up and going, ow, right? And my immediate thought was, oh man, I do not have time for this. Like, I would like to say that I was just a super compassionate, loving mom and I went in and tended to him. But I was like just pissed off and mad that he was going to make me late, that he was going to make me, like my whole day was just messed up. Thanks a lot, Duncan, right? Like it was like not at all who I want to be, right? This emotionally resilient mom. And I was just really just churned up, mud mind, not sure what to process. I know now that it was because I had a rule activated that I was going to have to cancel on a client. And I have a lot of attachment to that. I try not to do that. I was going to have to late cancel on a morning client. The guy was supposed to see me at 7:30. I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to get to him before he drove. That would be terrible. I just didn't like it. So in that moment, I just decided to get my tea. And as I went to get my tea and I came back, I asked myself, Lisa, is there something you're resisting or resenting? I was like, yes. And then I could see it. Now, instead of being in it, I was witnessing it. I'm like, yep, I don't want to have to cancel this client. I don't want to, I thought I was going to have to cancel the training that was at 2:00 that day. I don't know why in that mind, I thought that 2:00 was at risk. It wasn't, by the way. I landed that perfectly, right? It was fine. But in my mind, I got way ahead. So when I dropped my resistance, I came back to my centered self. I filled up with that more loving, hopeful, positive energy that I brought to my son. I also, by the way, in that moment where I noticed that I was resisting, I opened up. The new idea that had a chance to come through because I wasn't stuck in the resisting and resenting, the new idea, it changed everything, was, oh, he's got to go to urgent care. Because it was like, oh, he's got to go to urgent care and now I'm going to be late and it's going to have to take forever. In this moment, it's like, oh, it's still really early. We could be the first people at urgent care and we could get this taken care of well, and I could still be able to be at work, as could he, because another thought was he's going to let the gift shop people at the Kellogg Center down because he's going to be one of those students that I hear about that doesn't show up for things. I didn't want to be the mom of that guy either, right? Just all rigid, right? Ultimately, we were the first person to urgent care. He did end up with a boot on his leg. He was at work by 9:00. He made the appropriate call. I called the first guy and he was like, oh, thank goodness, I didn't feel like coming today. The other two were worked out. There was no big problem. If I hadn't noticed, I would have done the whole thing on like this. It's like having your foot on the gas and just blowing gas out of your carburetor, like versus like driving with energy saver mode, right? Like more moderate. So that reset changed that whole day. And it helped me be the mom I want to be and the therapist that I want to be along the way. Another thing I want you to notice is, are you having moments of awake mental rest? You need sleep. Oh, Stephanie, I'm so sorry he was late that day. That's hilarious. Supervisor, thank you. We tried really hard that day. That's so cool. Thanks for being such a really good first boss for him. And his experience at the Kellogg Center kind of changed his direction. I've been really grateful. Both my boys worked at the Kellogg Center and had really great experiences. Sleep is important, but equally important are moments that you have throughout the day where you are awake and not processing data, where you're allowing your brain to be awake and resting. When I first started practicing guided imagery to try to help myself learn to relax better, I couldn't even listen to a whole thing because as soon as I started to listen to it, I fell asleep. I did not know how to be awake and not processing. And there's huge value in that because it's in a moment of awake mental rest that we have new ideas come to us because we're not occupied. So we have new idea. The other thing I'd like you to notice, which is a start to thinking about your values, is what's your energy like and what energy are you bringing to people? And are you bringing the energy to people that you really want to be bringing? Okay, that sounds like a lot of noticing. It might be helpful for you to just jot those down. Just so that, as you're going through the day, just what was I supposed to be noticing? And we just want improvement in the noticing, in your willingness to. And so I would like you to notice these things. And then I would like you to notice what happens when you notice. Okay, any question that people have that they might want to spend the next couple of minutes with me answering?
Would awake mental rest be similar to meditation?
Yes, although sometimes people think about meditation, they think of it in 20-minute segments, or they think of it as, but yes, it's whenever I'm awake in the present moment without calculating in my head. So it's whenever you're in clear mind or whenever you're in receiving mode. So if you're letting yourself just have a moment where you're listening to the birds and you're not thinking, what bird is that? You're just letting that happen. That's an example. Any other questions? Acceptance and commitment theory. If anybody's interested in jumping into, because you actually have a lot of time right now, if you Google in the MSU search bar, Emotional Resilience Video Toolbox, you will get to a set of videos that I did about 18 months ago that walk you through acceptance and commitment theory, psychological flexibility. It'll walk you through that. We'll do pieces of it as we go through the class. But if you just have a hankering, if that's the thing, because I know some folks said that's the thing that really spoke, the ability to be in the present moment, open up, and do what matters. Those resources are already out there if you want to jump ahead and do some of that work. If you go to the main MSU page, web page, that's where it says search. And if you just type in there, Emotional Resilience Video Toolbox, or you can click on the link that the super fast and totally awesome Megan has provided for you. Is there a way for us to clap for Megan? Because she has just really been so helpful in making these webinars happen. Thanks to MSU Extension and the event service team. People are clapping. I love that. So
what is the difference between resisting and resenting something?
Resisting, I think of as I'm gonna try to make it not be true or not be happening. So I see it more like just holding it at bay. I'm resisting that I'm going to be late. Resenting has that more judgmental quality, like I'm resenting that somebody didn't do, I think judgment is America's favorite pastime. Heck with baseball. We are chronic judgers, and we don't witness that we get into judgment. And so we start judging and resenting, and we spend a ton of time judging and resenting something we can't change. And I'm not saying, I'm personally not thrilled that people were, this is just me, I'm owning my own thing here. I'm not thrilled that people were down at the Capitol protesting, blocking traffic near the hospital, particularly without masks on. I'm like, if you want to protest, I support the right to protest, but you're taking yourself and other people. And so I had a lot of thoughts about that. I'm not saying I shouldn't resist like power to the people kind of resist, And which is what they were doing too, by the way. I don't, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if I'm resenting that, and I'm caught up in thoughts about that, those thoughts might even be true. Like my thoughts, I might even say that my thoughts about that are actually right. But if I spend all night that night resisting that it happened and resenting those folks for doing that, what am I going to be doing with the rest of my night? Probably nothing value guided. I'm going to be so occupied with that I'm probably not going to reset. I'm not going to acknowledge and honor it and release it so that I can come back to center and then say, well, what do I want to do with my night tonight that might be useful? Is there some people in my own family that I might have a conversation with about my thought about why we might want to be exercising the most patience we can drum up with this? So resisting, this thing is like we resist losses. I don't want this loss to happen. Okay, like a lot of folks are resisting that they can't, go out to eat, right? Or they want it not to be true. Resentment is a judgmental habit. So, okay, everybody's got to take off because it's 5 o'clock. It's quitting time. I hear that yabba dabba do Flintstone. It's okay, Stephanie. That kind of distraction is always welcome. We'll see you next week. If you guys have questions, feel free to email me directly. Please answer your survey so that we can kind of get some more data for how the class goes. As you're filing out, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, stay safe. Practice, notice, practice. Notice, practice. Namaste to you. Deb, and thanks for the Pluto videos. Those are fun. Yes, have a great, great weekend, folks. Oh, Rocky, I'll send you those things still. I haven't forgot. I mean, I did forget, but I just remembered seeing your name. So I'll send you those, see what you can do with those. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate that. Deb is sharing the Pluto video that she shared with me last week with all of you. It was fun, a fun few moments. Feel free to check it out. I just saw a blue flash, Megan. I don't know what that means. Okay.
I moved something on my screen.
So I definitely saw a flash.
I have a game plan for next time.
I don't doubt that you do. That you probably figured that out along the way. And so the thing about Brene said about FFT is that when you look back on, if you're willing to start and have something be a freaking first time, when you look back, you just really recognize how much you've grown, right? And I feel like that's already happening for you and I.
Very much so.
Bye, Sharon. We'll have to really remember where we stopped.